Tochi stared at the ceiling, tears blurring her vision. 8 months. 8 months of pretending, of forced smiles, of a growing resentment that threatened to consume her. She had traded her vibrant life for this charade. Lies, she whispered into the darkness. It was all but lies. Tochi was the sun. That's how people saw her. Everywhere she went, she lit up the room. Her laughter was infectious, her beauty undeniable. Men tripped over themselves to get her attention, and women wanted to be her friends, or at least know her secrets. She loved the attention, the feeling of being wanted, of being the life of the party. She wasn't just a pretty face, though. Tochi had a sharp mind and a kind heart. She worked as a marketing executive, climbing the corporate ladder with determination and grace. She volunteered at a local orphanage, spending weekends playing with the children and helping them with their homework. Tochi had it all, or so it seemed. It was at a friend's birthday party that she met Uche. He was handsome, successful, and had a disarming smile. He wasn't like the other men who flocked around her, showering her with compliments. Uche was genuinely interested in her dreams and in her fears. They talked for hours that night, and Tochi found herself drawn to his warmth and intelligence. He was different. He intrigued her, and soon she found herself falling in love. It felt easy, natural, like she had known him forever. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dinners, weekend getaways, and stolen kisses under the moonlight. Uche was everything Tochi had ever wanted in a man: kind, generous, and deeply in love with her. He treated her like a queen, showering her with gifts and affection. But there was one thing that Uche was insistent on: celibacy before marriage. He explained that he wanted their first time to be special, a sacred union blessed by God. Tochi initially disagreed at the idea. She had always enjoyed her sexuality and didn't see why they should abstain. "Uche, come on," she said one evening, playfully pushing him on the arm. "We're adults. What's the big deal?" He took her hand, his eyes earnest. "Tochi, it's not about the big deal. It's about respecting each other, about building a foundation of trust and commitment. I want our marriage to be built on more than just physical attraction." Tochi wrestled with his request. On one hand, she valued her independence and didn't like the idea of being told what to do. On the other hand, she loved Uche deeply and didn't want to jeopardize their relationship. Plus, there was something undeniably appealing about the idea of waiting, of building anticipation for their wedding night. She talked to her friends about it, seeking their advice. Some encouraged her to stick to her guts, arguing that it was her body and her choice. Others advised her to compromise, suggesting that it was a small price to pay for a lifetime of happiness with Uche. Ultimately, Tochi made the decision to agree to Uche's request. She loved him and she wanted to make him happy. She convinced herself that it was just a temporary sacrifice, a small hurdle to overcome on the path to marital bliss. "Okay, Uche," she said, finally relenting. "I'll do it. I'll wait." The wedding was a grand affair, a celebration of love and commitment. Tochi looked radiant in her white gown, her eyes sparkling with joy. Uche stood at the altar, beaming with pride as he watched her walk towards him. It was a picture-perfect moment, the culmination of months of planning and anticipation. Family and friends gathered from far and wide to witness their union. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the sweet aroma of traditional delicacies. Tochi felt like she was living in a fairy tale, a dream come true. As they exchanged vows, Tochi couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. She had waited so long for this moment, for the chance to finally consummate her love with Uche. The wedding night stretched before her like a promise, a gateway to a world of intimacy and passion. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the priest declared. Uche lifted the veil and kissed Tochi, sealing their commitment with a tender embrace. The reception was a blur of dancing, feasting, and well-wishers. Tochi and Uche were the center of attention, basking in the glow of their newfound marital marital status. They danced the night away, their bodies moving in perfect harmony. As the night drew close, Tochi couldn't help but steal glances at Uche, her heart pounding with anticipation. She imagined her wedding night, the passionate embrace, the fulfillment of their desire. She couldn't wait to be finally his, completely and irrevocable. They finally made their escape, waving goodbye to their guests as they drove off into the night. The car was filled with a comfortable silence, a shared understanding of what awaited them. Tochi leaned her head against Uche's shoulder, feeling a sense of contentment wash over her. "Tonight is the night," she whispered, her voice barely audible. They arrived at their honeymoon suite, a luxurious heaven of romance and tranquility. Tochi stepped inside, her eyes wide with wonder. The room was adorned with flowers, candles, and a bottle of champagne on ice. Uche swept her into his arms, kissing her deeply. "Welcome home, my wife," he murmured against her lips. Tochi giggled, feeling a surge of excitement course through her veins. She couldn't wait to explore this new chapter of her life with Uche, to discover the depth of their love and intimacy. She went to the bathroom to prepare for the night. She took a long hot shower, savoring the feeling of the water cascading over her skin. She shaved her legs, applied lotions, and slipped into a sleek nightwear that she has been saving for this special occasion. When Tochi emerged from the bathroom, she found Uche sound asleep in bed. She stared at him in disbelief, her eyes sinking with disappointment. He was snoring softly, completely oblivious to her presence. She stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. Should she wake him up? Should she try to seduce him? Or should she just go to sleep and wait for the morning? She decided on the latter, figuring he was probably just exhausted from the day's festivity. She slipped into the bed beside him, feeling a wave of sadness washing over her. She had waited so long for this night, and now it was slipping away. She closed her eyes, trying to push away her disappointment. "Tomorrow," she whispered to herself, "tomorrow will be different." Next morning, Tochi woke up with a renewed sense of hope. She was determined to make the most of their honeymoon, to create memories that would last a lifetime. She dressed in a seductive outfit, hoping to ignite Uche's passion. She found him in the living room, reading a newspaper. She approached him slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. She sat beside him on the couch, gently placing her hands on his arm. "Good morning, my love," she said, her voice soft and alluring. Uche looked up from his paper, his eyes widening as he took in her appearance. He smiled, a flicker of desire in his eyes. He pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. Tochi responded with enthusiasm, her body tingling with anticipation. She had waited so long for this moment, and she wasn't going to let it pass her by. They kissed and caressed, their passion building with each passing moment. Uche held her to the bedroom, where they fell into the bed in a tangle of limbs. Tochi felt a surge of excitement as he began to undress her, his eyes filled with desire. Finally, the moment arrived. Uche positioned himself above her, ready to consummate their love. Tochi closed her eyes, bracing herself for the pleasure that she had been anticipating for so long. But then, nothing. Uche opened her eyes, confused. She felt nothing, no sensation, no pleasure. She looked at Uche, his face contorted in concentration. Are you in?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Uche's face fell. He pulled away from her, his eyes filled with shame. I don't know what's wrong," he stammered. Tochi sat up in bed, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and disappointment. She had waited so long for this moment, and now it was ruined. "What do you mean you don't know what's wrong?" she demanded. "What's going on, Uche?" Uche hung his head, unable to meet her gaze. He mumbled something under his breath, his voice barely audible. "What? Speak up, Uche!" Tochi exclaimed, her patience wearing thin. He finally looked up at her, his eyes filled with tears. It's always been like this, he confessed. I've never been able to satisfy a woman. Tochi stared at him in disbelief. What are you saying? She said, her voice trembling. I'm saying that I have a problem, Uche admitted. A problem with my size. The words hung in the air, heavy and accusatory. Tochi felt like she had been punched in the guts. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Uche had known all along, and he had deliberately deceived her. You knew? She whispered, her voice filled with betrayal. You knew that you had a problem, and you didn't tell me. Uche nodded, his face contorted in shame. I was afraid, he said. I was afraid that you wouldn't marry me if you knew. Tochi felt a surge of anger rise within her. She had given up so much for Uche, had sacrificed her own desires and needs for his sake, and now she discovered that he had been lying to her all along. You deceived me, Uche, she exclaimed, her voice rising in anger. You tricked me into marrying you. You knew that this was a problem and you hid it from me. Uche reached out to her, his eyes pleading. Tochi, please. I'm sorry, he begged. I love you, and I didn't want to lose you. Tochi recoiled from his touch, her heart filled with disgust. Love? She spat. Is that what you call this? You lied to me, Uche. You built our entire relationship on a foundation of lies. She stood up from the bed, her body trembling with rage. Can't believe I married you, she said, her voice filled with contempt. I can't believe I wasted my life on you. Tochi stormed out of the room, leaving Uche alone in the bed, his head in his hands. She wandered aimlessly around the suite, her mind racing with anger and confusion. She couldn't believe what her dream wedding, her fairy tale romance had turned into. Uche found herself on the balcony, the warm tropical air doing little to soothe her burning anger. The ocean stretched out before her, vast and indifferent, mirroring the emptiness that was now growing inside her. She thought of her friends, of the life she had left behind, the parties, the laughter, the easy confidence. Had she made a terrible mistake? Had she been so blinded by love that she ignored the warning sign? She replayed the past months in her head, searching for clues, for any indication that Uche was hiding something. But he had been so attentive, so loving, so seemingly perfect. How could she have known? How could she have seen through the carefully constructed facade? The celibacy request now seemed like a calculated move, a way to mask his insecurities and trap her in a marriage built on lies. The tears started again, hot and angry. She felt like a fool, a pawn in Uche's selfish game. She had given him her heart, her body, her trust, and he had betrayed her in the worst possible way. I hate you, Uche, she whispered into the wind, the words laced with bitterness and painful. I truly hate you. Back inside, Uche was a mess. He hadn't moved from the bed, his face buried in his hands, his body shaking with sob. He knew he had messed up, that he had jeopardized everything he held dear. He loved Tochi more than anything in the world, and the thought of losing her was unbearable. He had always been insecure about his size. It was a secret he had carried since puberty, a source of shame and anxiety that had haunted his relationships. He had hoped that love would be enough, that Tochi wouldn't care, that they would find a way to make it work. But now, seeing the pain in her eyes, the disgust in her voice, he knew he had been wrong. He had wanted to tell her, to be honest from the beginning, but the fear of rejection had been too strong. He had convinced himself that it was better to risk her anger later than to lose her altogether. But his cowardice had backfired, creating a deeper wound, a betrayal that might be impossible to heal. The rest of the honeymoon was a disaster. Tochi and Uche barely spoke, their meals eaten in silence, the nights spent in separate beds. The luxurious resort felt like a prison, the beautiful scenery a mocking reminder of their shattered dreams. Tochi spent her days by the pool, staring blankly at the water, lost in her thoughts. Uche stayed in the room, wallowing in his guilt and despair. One evening, Tochi found Uche packing his bags. What are you doing? She asked, her voice cold and distant. I'm leaving, he replied, his eyes filled with sadness. I can't do this this anymore. I can't stand seeing you like this. I'm making you miserable. You think living is going to solve anything? Tochi scoffed. You think running away is going to make anything better? I don't know, Uche admitted, but I know I can't stay here and watch you hate me. Maybe you are better off without me. Tochi stared at him, her expression unreadable. Part of her wanted to scream at him, to tell him to stay and fight for their marriage. But another part of her felt a sense of relief, a sense that maybe this was the only way out. Maybe you're right, she said quietly. Maybe we're better off apart. Uche finished packing, his movements slow and deliberate. He walked over to Tochi, his eyes searching for hers. I will always love you, he said softly. I will never stop regretting what I did. He leaned in to kiss her, but Tochi turned away. Don't, she said, her voice trembling. Just go. Uche left the suite without another word, leaving Tochi alone with her thoughts. She watched him walk away, her heart a mixture of sadness and anger. She knew that their marriage was over, that there was no going back, but she couldn't help but wonder what could have been, what their lives could have been like if Uche had been honest with her from the start. She spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions, packing her bags, checking out of the resort. The vibrant colors and joyous atmosphere of the island felt like a cruel joke. She cut the honeymoon short, booking the first available flight back home. As the plane soared through the sky, Tochi looked out the window, watching the clouds drift by. She felt like she was floating, disconnected from her life, unsure of what the future held. She had always been so confident, so in control, but now she felt lost and vulnerable. The lies had not only shattered her marriage, but also her sense of self. Thank you for watching this amazing story. If you were to be Tochi, how would you have handled this situation? And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and please share this video. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.